You know, a lot of times up here, we try to tell stories to people that they just won't believe them. They've hung on several of us here that we're liars, but I don't go for that. I never lied to anybody in my life, but I'll tell you a deal that happened, and which I have trouble making some of them believe all right, but it actually happened. Now, this youngest son of mine is an outfitter, and we get quite a few hunters coming along. And about a year or so ago, there was a hunter come in there, I don't know, from Florida or New York or someplace, and boy, he just couldn't see everything at one time, you know, and he spotted a big 6-point bull elk head that we had hanging on the wall. And he came out there and he said to me, "Did you kill that elk?" "No," I said, "I didn't kill that elk." "Well," he said, "did your son kill it?" "No," I said, "he didn't kill it either." "Well, how'd you get it?" he said. I said, "Nobody killed it." "Well," he said, "somebody had to kill it." "No," I said, "nobody had to kill it." "Well, how'd you get it?" And I said, "Well, that's quite a long story." And I see I was going to have to tell him, so I took time. I said, "Sit down and I'll tell you about it." It happened a long time back when I was working for an outfit. I was just a young feller. And this day I happened to be right around the ranch. The fellers had all went out. Now, the ramrod, as I call him, the foreman's the one that always lays the work out for you, and all the bosses that owns the outfit hardly ever says anything to you. And they was all gone. I had one of the horses to shoes that I'd been riding and a few little things that was caught up on, and I was there at the range. And the boss of the outfit came out and he said, "Bark." There was a fellow worked there by the name of Snooks, and for 2 years around there when I was trying to learn to be a bronc rider and whatnot, I had the hide peeled off me from one end to the other, and one day he said to me, he said, "Boy, you're barked up most of the time," so they hung Bark on me. You got that name. The boss said, "Bark," he said, "I was having to go to town to get some stuff," and he said, "Something has come up and I can't go." He said, "You're caught up around here. Would you run in and get this stuff?" "Yeah," I said, "I guess I could." I said, "What do you want me to go in?" "Well," he said, "the only thing right here that's left around here was an old Model T that was there in the shed," and he said, "It runs all right." I said, "It's in good shape." He said, "You can use it." Well, he got it out of the shed for me, and Jesus, I didn't know anything about one of them. He showed me how to pull on this lever and step on this one and pull the ears down on it under the steering wheel and that little old stem winder out in front, how you wound it up and this and that and a few other little things. Started me down the road for town. Well, about halfway to town, there's a big draw. There was a bridge across it that didn't have any sides on it, and I was a little worried about that bridge. But I made it across all right and on into town, and I give the guy this list of that stuff I was supposed to get. And while he was getting it all ordered, well, I went over to a place that was making a little home brew, and I got a bottle or two of that, which was a couple of bottles that was about as good as a quart of whiskey you get at the store now. And I was feeling pretty good, and it was getting late in the evening and started back, so I was pretty brave. I was chugging right along. This bridge was coming up, and I thought, geez, I made her all right once, and I'll make her again. About the time I got to where I could see it right good, there was a big old bull elk come up out of that draw. And he planted himself right in the end of that bridge. And I'd see that we were going to have some trouble. He didn't know what it was, I don't think, but they're pretty particular what gets in with their cows, and he sure hell didn't want that thing running in with them. So I thought, boy, I better do something right quick. So I yanks up on this lever and looks down to see where these others are and run off in the damn ditch and kill this cockeyed thing. Well, then I was afraid to get out to try to stem wind it, and he wasn't about to leave anyway. His old eyes was a popping, he was grinding his teeth. And he'd come up and look at me a little bit and turn around and get up a little, and then he'd run back again and he'd look at me. And the only thing that I'd think about was if I had something to throw at him, maybe I could scare him enough to get away to where I could make it. So I reached over the back seat and into this stuff, and I come up with a big old bottle. And it was dark enough at that time, and I couldn't read the label on it, and I thought, what the heck's this? And I pulled the cork out and smelled it, and it was turpentine. So when he turned around, I let drive at him, and I soaked him up pretty good with that damn turpentine up and down and under his tail and down his legs. And this is the part that I have a hell of a time of getting people to believe. But he backed up to a big old rough bark tree, and he started itching up and down and scratching and hitching and grinding his teeth. And I was a little leery about getting out, and I thought, oh, to hell with it. So I just crawled up in the seat the best I could and went to sleep. Once or twice I woke up and he was still scratching. I could hear him out there. Well, the next morning when I woke up at daylight, I looked out there and I said to that guy, "You're looking at what was left of that damned elk hanging right there on that wall."